Doctor Who The Chase, the 16th story of the first Doctor, is written by Terry Nation and starring William Hartnell, William Russell, Jacqueline Hill and Maureen O'Brien. So Terry originally named this story The Pursuers, and so there are a few changes going on with the story. Like, the TARDIS team would originally see on the visualizer Shakespeare discussing with his wife the possibility of allowing Francis Bacon to use his name on Bacon's plays, as well as speech by Winston Churchill. The sands would have been see-through and Ian and Barbara wouldn't have left the TARDIS. As you can see, the changes to those who have seen the story. Some of the Daleks in the story were designed by Shawcraft models for Doctor Who and the Daleks film, but had to redesign to make it look like the original television Daleks, and the story came out the same year as the film, 1965. As the Daleks find out the TARDIS left Xeros, they're planning to exterminate the Travellers. Pretty intense. So meanwhile, the Doctor is busy fixing the space-time visualizer and gets annoyed by Vicky's whistle, so she sees Ian reading Monsters from Outer Space, and he shrugs Vicky off as she tries to have a proper look. So then she went to Barbara and fell onto a dress that Barbara was making for Vicky. So the visualizer is making the noise and everyone went to see, as it's like a time television, which is cool. It's a pity that it's the only time we see the Doctor use it, and in Twice Upon a Time, I think. So first they watch Abraham Lincoln, a president of the United States during the American Civil War in the 1860s, delivering his Gettysburg Address. Then they watched Elizabeth I's courtroom, with William Shakespeare plays the Merry Wives of Windsor and Hamlet, and then the Beatles singing Ticket to Ride on the BBC music show Top of the Pops. And I love Ian's dancing when he's like that. She's got a ticket to ride. Now copyright squashed my favourite Beatles. They were originally going to appear as themselves, but their manager Brian Epstein was against it. Ironically, that episode of Top of the Pops is gone, but the clip still survives thanks to this Doctor Who episode. And Vicky said that the Beatles play classical music, which is pretty well predicted because I think people today would call it classic, I think. So the TARDIS arrives in a desert planet, Aridia, so the TARDIS team went out. As Vicky wandered off, the Doctor gave Ian TARDIS magnet in case they get lost, which is pretty handy. So Ian and Vicky sees a trail of blood. As they followed, we get a scary tentacle rising up, and we get an amusing scene where they found the ring under the ground, and Vicky was thinking that if you pull it, anything could happen, because when she's a child there was a thing of pulling the ring and drawbridge of the mysterious castle opens. So Ian was like, there's no castle. So he pulled the ring and nothing happened, and Ian is like, Excalibur. As they went off, they noticed the trapdoor opened, so they went down. As the Doctor and Barbara are sunbathing, she asks what the awful noise was, and the Doctor got insulted thinking she was talking about his singing, but it was the space-time visualizer. So Barbara went in, and that's the moment when they found out that the Daleks are coming, which is so intense, and your heart is pounding really fast because you're unsure if they're going to survive this. After the sandstorm, the Doctor and Barbara have lost the TARDIS and discovered Dalek rising from a sand. Oh, really suspense. Part 2, The Death of Time. So another Dalek came and the Doctor and Barbara learned that the Daleks are going to exterminate them.
They are to be exterminated. Destroy, exterminated. Let the search begin.
So then they ended up meeting Iridian. After one of them got exterminated, the Doctor and Barbara learnt about what happened to the planets. They wouldn't let the Doctor and Barbara go underground, so they forced them to allow them, while the Daleks are using a detector. So after the Doctor and Barbara are eating underground, Iridian revealed to the Doctor and Barbara that they're to turn them into a Daleks. Meanwhile, Ian and Vicky sees a creature, so they ran off, and there was explosions. Vicky got grabbed, the creature dies, and Ian gets knocked out. So Vicky goes off to find help. So the Daleks tried to exterminate the TARDIS but failed, so they guarded it. Ian woke up and Vicky gets carried by an Iridian after she found the TARDIS, and she reunites with the Doctor and Barbara. So then Maya creature broke into a wall and ate one of Iridian, which gave the Doctor, Barbara and Vicky a chance to escape. So then they found Ian, and he's got a plan to get to the TARDIS and avoiding the Daleks. So he uses Barbara's cardigan again, not the same one obviously, and the Doctor's jacket to cover a hole. So then Ian and the Doctor calls for a Dalek and it fell down to the hole. So the TARDIS team managed to get inside the TARDIS just in time as the Daleks exterminated the TARDIS while it dematerialised. So the Daleks are planned to time travel to follow them. Episode 3, Flight Through Eternity, as everyone is happy that they got away from the Daleks, but the TARDIS was beeping and the Doctor realised that they're being followed by another time machine. The effects on the TARDIS and Dalek time machine flying through vortex is pretty effective. So at New York 1966, as Peter Purvis played a character called Morton Dill, is separated from a group, the TARDIS arrived with the Doctor and his companions coming out. Morton got overexcited thinking that it was a film set, so the Doctor and his companions got back inside the TARDIS while Morton was about to get his camera to take a picture. The TARDIS disappeared. But then the Dalek time machine appeared and Morton Dill approaching the Daleks. I was like, uh-oh, because I thought he was going to get exterminated, but he surprisingly wasn't. He told the Daleks that they disappeared. So the Daleks went back inside the time machine and disappeared off. As Morton looks at the ground, everyone sees him as mental, so a tour guide decides to find the police. I'd love to know what happened to that guy afterwards. So the TARDIS arrived on an old sailing ship, so Barbara went out to have a look. She gets caught by a sailor and grabbed her, so then Vicky arrived to knock him out, and then she knocked Ian out by mistake because she thought that he was another sailor. So they both got themselves with Ian back inside the TARDIS and disappeared, and the sailor saw it disappeared and told the captain that there's an intruders. So they search around and the Daleks arrived, and surprisingly none of them got exterminated. So all the crew jumped off the ship and one of the Daleks fell off the ship. So the Daleks disappeared off, leaving the ship abandoned, which apparently it's Mary Celeste, and Captain Benjamin Briggs was in charge of that ship. Plus that ship was famous for mysterious empty ship in the sea in 1872, and I love the atmosphere of the scene where they showed the empty ship. The Doctor realises that the more they land, the closer the Daleks get. Hugh Walters played William Shakespeare, playwright, poet and an actor, and considered to be the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. Vivian Bennett played Queen Elizabeth I, was Queen of England and Ireland since 17th of November 1558 until 24th of March 1603, the day she passed away. Those two are later played by Dean Lennox Kelly and Angela Pleasant in the Shakespeare Code, with David Tennant as the Doctor. Robert Marsden played Abraham Lincoln, a lawyer and the 16th President of the United States, and he sadly got assassinated by a stage actor, John Wilkes Booth. Roger Hammond played Francis Bacon, an English philosopher and Lord High Chancellor of England, and he gave Shakespeare an idea of Hamlet. Dennis Chinnery played Albert C. Richardson, who's a member of Mary Celeste, and later played Garmin in Genesis of the Daleks, and Sylvester in The Twin Dilemma. Peter Purvis played two different roles in this story. First he played Morton Dill, an American tourist, then he played a companion, Stephen Taylor, who's a prisoner of the Mechanoids for 2 years. This story gives me the goosebumps. This is well written and directed. The music by Dudley Simpson is brilliant, the casts are great. Again, I always loved William Hartnell as the First Doctor, Maureen O'Brien as Vicky. I loved her chemistry with the Doctor, Ian and Barbara. I always loved William Russell and Jacqueline Hill as Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright as well. And this is the last story we'll see them as of time of recording. William Russell's enthusiastic with the show has warned and needed a change. He later reprised the role in Ian Chesterton in an introduction video for Crusade DVD and VHS. And you'll never guess who showed me it. William Russell. Yeah, I actually met him at Comic-Con in 2015. Sadly I haven't got a photo with myself and him, which I regretted not having it. I said to him he did a great job and that he should come back, and he said he did. He showed me the photo, which unfortunately I haven't heard of it, but I'm glad he told me, so I went to watch it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, it's nice there that I got to meet him, absolutely surreal, and he's a nice guy. And Jacqueline Hill gave up acting after leaving the show to raise her family. Then she played Lexa in Meglos and sadly died in 1993 from cancer. Rest in peace. So in episode 4, Journey into Terror, so the TARDIS arrived in a Scooby-Doo-like spooky house, thinking it'll be a great place to fight the Daleks. So while Ian and the Doctor goes up the stairs, Barbara and Vicky tries to move on as they notice vampire bats. After they noticed fireplace with eyes, they opened the coffin and there was nothing there, and ended up meeting Count Dracula, which is cool. As Barbara looks at the wall, Vicky disappears with a grey lady screaming. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Ian meet Frankenstein in a lab, so the Daleks arrived and exterminated Frankenstein but hasn't died. So the Doctor, Ian and Barbara went back in the TARDIS and disappeared, leaving Vicky behind. Oops, pretty intense because we're thinking that Vicky could die. Even the Daleks exterminated Count Dracula and Grey Lady, they just don't die, they're just doing what they're doing. And I love the bit where the Frankenstein lifted a Dalek and dropped it.
Don't go. Don't go. Don't go. Don't go.
So Vicky sneaks into a Dalek time machine and the Daleks went back inside and disappeared. The Doctor and Ian and Barbara realise that they've left Vicky behind, and sadly the TARDIS doesn't go back in the same place it's been during that time. So Vicky tries to communicate with the TARDIS without getting caught, and she sees a robot replica of the Doctor, which leads to Part 5, The Death of Doctor Who. Pretty intense title there. And yeah, that was Edmund Warwick, who plays the robot Doctor, who played a stunt double in the Dalek invasion of Earth because William Hartnell had a back injury at the time. So the Daleks ordered the robot Doctor to infiltrate and kill.
Understand? Of course I understand, my dear fellow. Don't fuss so. I am to infiltrate and kill.
So everyone arrived on the planet Mecharis, full of living plants called fungoids that does attack you. So the Doctor, Ian and Barbara plans to use a device to blow the Daleks up. So Vicky got out the Daleks time machine to find the others, and they followed by a robot Doctor. So the Doctor, Ian and Barbara heard Vicky screaming, so the Doctor and Ian went to find her, who seems to be unconscious. The robot Doctor went to Barbara and told her that Ian is dead, so they walked off to have a look. When Vicky sees the Doctor, she thought he was a robot, but then realises that's the real Doctor, so she warned him and Ian about the robot Doctor that Daleks made, and noticed Barbara is missing, so they went to find her. As Barbara heard Ian's voice, the robot Doctor was about to kill Barbara with his stick, so Ian restrained him and he went away, and letting her know that it's the robot. As the group reunited, both Doctor and Robot Doctor argue which one is real, so Ian wrestles one of them, which turns out to be the real Doctor. We get a cool fight scene between the Doctor and Robot Doctor. William Hartnell does a great fight scenes. So the Robot Doctor gets unplugged and everyone went to sleep for a bit, and after they woke up and seeing the city, the Daleks were coming. So the Doctor tried to fool them that he's the robot, but the Daleks didn't fall for it. So the whole TARDIS team went to a door and met a mechanoid voiced by David Graham. So in episode 6, The Planet of Decision, the Doctor and his companions gets taken away by a mechanoid to the lift and went up to the city, and they get locked up in a big room, and they met Peter Purves' character, Stephen Taylor, who's got his mascot, a cuddly toy panda. Apparently they're prisoners, so the Daleks plans to get up to the city. So the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, Vicky and Stephen went up on the roof. Vicky has a phobia of heights, so they blindfolded her and went on the roof to climb down. Stephen decides to go back down to get his mascot. We get an incredible battle scene with the Daleks and the mechanoids. Brilliant for low budget. So after that, Vicky shows the Doctor inside the Dalek time machine, and Barbara realises that they can go home. That way she tells Ian and asks the Doctor. But then they argue because the Doctor thinks it can explode in space. Vicky prompts the Doctor to help Ian and Barbara to get back home, as it's their choice. So the Doctor led them back home. It's so sad to see Ian and Barbara going. I really love those two. You actually do forget that Ian and Barbara have been wanting to go back ever since they first entered the TARDIS. But they do seem to enjoy their adventures at the same time, whatever they go through. So Ian and Barbara arrived at an abandoned garage at London in 1965. The Dalek time machine exploded, so they went sightseeing around in London and enjoyed being back, but sad at the same time to say goodbye to the Doctor. So they went on the bus and finds out that the bus fare is high during their absence. Plus I have no idea how they're going to explain to Coal Hill School about their absence. It's really amusing when the guy was asking if they've been on Moon and Ian said no but getting warmer, and then they laughed. The Doctor and Vicky obviously missed them. I really love this story. This is my favourite William Hartnell story because you have few historic events, planets, Dalek chase, sad farewell scene with Ian and Barbara, and references all in one story, which I loved. The Daleks are pretty scary in this story. Originally there was going to be a third Dalek film with Peter Cushing returning again as Doctor Who based off the story, but it got cancelled because of the poor box office. What did you think of The Chase? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.